The great hall of Fotheringhay Castle smells of damp stone and old wood, a scent that has seeped into the tapestries over centuries of English winters. But on this morning, February 8th, 1587, there is another smell beneath the mustiness. It is the metallic, coppery tang of anticipation. It is the scent of a room holding its breath. In the center of the hall stands a platform, draped in black velvet. It looks less like a place of justice and more like a theater stage set for a tragedy, raised 2 feet off the ground so that every man in the room might have a clear view of the sin about to be committed. A fire crackles in the great hearth, casting long, dancing shadows against the walls, but it does little to chase away the chill. The cold here is not just in the air, it settles in the marrow of the bone. It is the cold of the grave, arriving early. Enter the woman. She's 44 years old, though the cruel years of imprisonment have carved deep ravines into her face, masking the legendary beauty that once commanded the courts of France and Scotland. She moves with a stiff, arthritic dignity, clutching a crucifix of ivory and gold. Her lips move in a silent, feverish rhythm, reciting the Psalms in Latin, a private conversation with a God she believes is waiting to receive her. She's dressed in black satin, somber and regal, but as she ascends the scaffold, she begins to disrobe. Her attendants, weeping silently, peel away the outer layers of her mournful attire. And then, the shock. Beneath the black, she's wearing a bodice and petticoat of crimson velvet, red, the color of blood, the liturgical color of martyrdom in the Catholic Church. In her final moments, she transforms herself from a condemned criminal into a sacrificial lamb, blazing like a fresh wound against the black drapes of the scaffold. She is not hiding from death. She is daring it to take her. She kneels. The block is too low. It is a crude, humiliating thing, forcing a queen anointed by holy oil to prostrate herself like a common thief. She places her chin on the wood. She stretches out her neck. The room goes so quiet you can hear the settling of the logs in the fireplace. Standing over her is the headsman, a man named Bull. He's trembling. Perhaps it is the weight of history in his hands, or perhaps, as the rumors will later suggest, he is drunk to numb the horror of his task. He raises the heavy axe. The steel catches the firelight. He swings, but the strike is not true. It does not sing through the air with the clean whistle of a professional kill. It is clumsy. It is weak. The blade misses the neck entirely and slams into the back of her skull with a sickening crunch of metal on bone. The queen does not die. She screams. A low, guttural sound that tears through the silence of the hall, a sound not of royalty, but of an animal in a trap. The witnesses flinch, their stomachs turning. She is still alive, she is conscious. The executioner, panic rising in his chest, wrenches the blade from the bone and strikes again. The second blow severs the neck, but not completely. Sinew and gristle still hold the head to the body. The queen is dead now, surely, but the butchery is not over. The headsman must take his axe and saw through the remaining flesh like a butcher dressing a carcass. Blood pools on the floorboards, soaking into the wood, dripping through the cracks. When he finally lifts the head by the hair to show the crowd, screaming, "God save the Queen!" the final horror reveals itself. The auburn hair comes away in his hand. It is a wig. The head falls back onto the scaffold with a wet thud, rolling away to reveal close-cropped grey hair, the stark reality of an old woman stripped of her majesty. This was not a noble end. It was a massacre. It was 3 blows of the axe that shattered the divine right of kings and stained the soul of a nation. But how did it come to this? How did a girl born to wear 2 crowns end up as a mangled corpse on a cold floor in Northamptonshire? To understand the blood, we must understand the passion that pumped it. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe and leave a like. Not just to help the channel, but because every interaction tells YouTube that stories like this deserve to be told. This is not merely a story of execution. It's a story of two cousins, two queens, and a deadly game of chess played with human lives. It's a tale of a woman who loved too recklessly, trusted too easily, and ruled in an era where a woman's power was a dangerous, fragile thing. We are going to peel back the layers of propaganda and time, much like the black satin strip from Mary's shoulders, to reveal the vibrant, bloody truth beneath. We are going back to the beginning, before the axe, before the prison, to a cradle in a palace where a tragedy began with a birth. To understand the horror of the axe, you must first feel the softness of the neck it was meant to sever. Long before she was the weary, arthritic woman in the black dress, Mary Stuart was a child born into a world that wanted to devour her. Her story begins not with a fanfare of trumpets, but with the howling wind of a Scottish December. The year is 1542. Linlithgow Palace sits like a stone sentinel beside a frozen loch, the air inside biting and bitter. In a draughty chamber, a baby girl draws her first breath. She is tiny, fragile, wrapped in swaddling clothes to ward off the winter chill that seeps through the tapestries. 6 days, that is all the time she is given to be merely a child. 6 days after she is born, her father, King James V, lies on his deathbed, his spirit broken by a crushing military defeat against the English. He turns his face to the wall, muttering a prophecy of doom, and breathes his last. In that instant, the infant in the cradle ceases to be a person. She becomes a queen. Imagine the weight of a crown, placed metaphorically upon a skull that has not yet fused. She is 6 days old, and she is already the most valuable object in Europe, a pawn made of flesh and blood, sitting at the center of a board surrounded by wolves. Her childhood is a series of escapes. By the time she's 5, Scotland is burning. The English king, Henry VIII, demands her hand for his son, a courtship conducted not with flowers, but with fire and sword, a campaign of terror known as the Rough Wooing. To save her life, her mother makes a desperate choice. She must tear the child from her breast and send her away. Picture the scene on the docks at Dumbarton. A 5-year-old girl clutching her nurse's hand, the smell of salt spray and tar filling her nose. She is being put onto a ship, the galleys of France waiting to whisk her across a treacherous sea. She leaves behind the grey skies and the rough heather of her homeland for a country she has never seen. The separation is absolute. She is a little girl who learns early that love equals loss, that safety requires abandonment. But if Scotland was a cradle of cold stone, France is a gilded cage of blinding luxury. She arrives at the French court, and it is as if she has stepped from a monochrome nightmare into a technicolor dream. The air here does not smell of damp wool and peat smoke. It smells of crushed lavender, roasting pheasant, and expensive Italian perfumes. The Château de Saint-Germain-en-Laye is a labyrinth of marble and gold, populated by the most powerful people on earth. Here Mary blooms. She is not the grim, plotting monarch of later propaganda. She is a radiant, effervescent girl. Chronicles from the time describe her as possessing an otherworldly charm. She is tall for her age, with auburn hair that catches the candlelight and amber eyes that seem to hold a fierce intelligence. She learns to speak Latin, Greek, Italian, and Spanish. She learns to play the lute, her long, elegant fingers dancing over the strings, filling the royal chambers with music. She loves to hawk, riding through the lush forests of the Loire Valley, the wind in her hair, a falcon gripping her gloved fist. For a brief, shimmering moment, she is happy. She is the petite reine, the little queen, adored by everyone. She is betrothed to the Dauphin, Francis, a stuttering, sickly boy, stunted and frail. But Mary does not recoil from him. She protects him. She is his champion. Witnesses describe them huddled together in the corners of the great halls, two children whispering secrets while the adults plot wars around them. Her affection for him is genuine, a soft, innocent love in a world of hard alliances. Yet, even amidst the velvet and the lutes, there is a rot. She is raised by the French court not to be a ruler, but to be an asset. Her uncle, the Duke of Guise, looks at her not with the eyes of a family member, but with the appraising stare of a horse trader. Every dance step she learns, every language she masters, is calculated to increase her value on the marriage market. She is polished like a diamond, not for her own sake, but so she might shine brighter in someone else's crown. She is told she is semi-divine. She is told she is the rightful Queen of England, a claim that will one day be her death warrant. She is fed on a diet of grandeur and entitlement, completely unaware that she is being fattened for the slaughter. Look at her there, in the gardens of the Louvre. She returns to Scotland a widow at 18, draped in white mourning silks that ghostly contrast against the grey granite of Edinburgh. The girl who left as a pawn returns as a queen, but she is a tropical bird released into a winter storm. Holyrood Palace is cold. The hallways echo with the thundering sermons of John Knox, a preacher who spits fire from the pulpit, calling her court a nest of harlotry and her faith an abomination. She is powerful, yes. She is the Queen of Scots. But strip away the titles, look past the velvet canopy of the throne, and you find a young woman who is profoundly, aching lonely. She is starved for warmth. She is starved for the music and the laughter of the French court. She is a creature of passion, trapped in a land of iron discipline, and when the heart is starved, it does not make wise choices. It devours the first thing that looks like sustenance. Enter Mary Stuart, Lord Darnley. He rides into her court in February 1565, and the air in the room seems to change. He is 19 years old. He is what they call a long lad, over 6 feet tall, towering even over Mary, who is tall herself. He is golden-haired, with a face that looks as if it were minted on a coin. He plays the lute. He dances with the grace of a courtier. In a room full of bearded, sour-faced Scottish lords in rough wool, Darnley glitters like a jewel. Mary does not just see him, she drinks him in. The reaction is immediate. It is visceral. It is a fever that takes hold of the blood and burns away all reason. The chronicles tell us she was struck by his lustiness, a word that in the 16th century meant vigor and health, but in this context carries a heavier, sweatier weight. She falls for him, hard. This is the fatal flaw, the crack in the diamond. For all her intelligence, for all her political training, Mary has a heart that rules her head. She sees in Darnley a reflection of the life she lost. He is sophisticated, he is Catholic, he is a Stuart. To her, he looks like a partner. To her, he looks like a king. But love, or this sudden blinding infatuation, is a liar. It masks the rot beneath the skin. Her advisors beg her to stop. Elizabeth of England, watching from the south with eyes like a hawk, forbids the match. The Protestant lords grumble in the corners, their hands drifting to the hilts of their swords. They see what Mary refuses to see, that Darnley is an empty vessel. He is vain, arrogant, and vicious. He is a boy in a man's body, driven by an ambition that far outstrips his intellect. But Mary cannot hear them. The passion is a roar in her ears. It is an addiction. She creates a fantasy of him, projecting nobility onto a canvas of narcissism. She nurses him through the measles, wiping his fevered brow, staying by his bedside, inhaling the sickness as if it were perfume. She is obsessed. She rushes the marriage, defying the world, defying common sense. She marries him in black, the color of her widowhood, perhaps a subconscious omen of the death this union will bring. For a few weeks, it is a fairy tale. They hunt together, they dance, they rule. But the honeymoon is shorter than a Scottish summer. Almost as soon as the ring is on his finger, the mask slips. The golden boy dissolves, revealing the monster. Darnley is not a king. He is a drunkard. He spends his nights in the taverns of Edinburgh, brawling and whoring. He returns to the palace stinking of stale wine and other women shouting demands. He wants the crown matrimonial. He wants the power to rule alone if she dies. He wants to be her master, not her husband. Imagine the horror of that waking, the realization that the passion was a trap. The man she worshipped is a brute who insults her in public, who leaves her weeping in her chambers while he carouses with his sycophants. The warmth she craved has turned into a scorching fire that is burning her house down. And now she is pregnant. She is carrying the future King of England and Scotland in her womb, bound by holy sacrament to a man she is beginning to loathe. The love curdles into something dark and volatile. She turns away from him, seeking solace in the company of her small circle of friends, specifically her Italian secretary, David Rizzio. Rizzio is everything Darnley is not: small, misshapen, but intelligent, loyal and kind. He becomes her confidant. They play cards late into the night. He sings to her in the languages of her youth. It is an innocent intimacy, a desperate grasp for friendship in a hostile court. But to a jealous, drunken husband, it looks like betrayal. Darnley watches them. He sees the heads bent close together by the firelight. He hears the whispers he cannot understand. And in the dark soil of his inadequate mind, a seed of murderous rage begins to sprout. The passion that brought them together has not died. It has mutated. It has become a poisonous obsession, not with loving her, but with destroying anything that keeps her from him. The shadows are lengthening in Holyrood House. The laughter is about to stop. The music is about to be drowned out by the sound of heavy boots on the stairs. The passion has lit the fuse, and the explosion is coming for them all. While Mary sits in her chambers, nursing her swelling belly and listening to Rizzio's gentle songs, the real power in Scotland is gathering in the cellars and back rooms of Edinburgh. These are not men who sing. These are men who whisper. The Scottish nobility of the 16th century is a pack of wolves in doublets. They are hard men, forged in a hard land. Clan feuds run in their blood like a virus. Treachery is not a sin to them, it is a survival strategy. And at the head of this pack, or perhaps lurking just behind it, is a man whose shadow stretches long over Mary's life. Her half-brother, James Stuart, the Earl of Moray. He is the illegitimate son of her father. He has the blood of kings, but the bar sinister of bastardy bars him from the throne. He has watched his sister, this Catholic girl, this French butterfly, take the crown that he believes his competence deserves. He wears a mask of pious Protestantism, a stern, unsmiling face that preaches morality, while his hands are busy weaving nets of conspiracy. But Moray is not the only danger. The Protestant lords, Ruthven, Morton, Lindsay, are restless. They see Mary's Catholicism as a threat to their souls, and more importantly, a threat to their lands. They hate the foreigner Rizzio. They hate his influence. They hate that a low-born Italian musician has the Queen's ear, while they, the great lords of the realm, are made to wait in the antechambers. Envy is a powerful accelerant. Xenophobia is another. And when you mix them with the volatile stupidity of Henry Darnley, you have a recipe for a coup. The plot begins to take shape in the winter of 1566. It is a conspiracy born in darkness, signed in blood. The lords approach Darnley. They play him like a fiddle. They whisper poison into his ear. "She's cuckolding you," they say. "That Italian dwarf is the father of the child in her womb." They stoke his vanity. They promise him the crown matrimonial, the ultimate power he craves, if he will only help them remove the obstacle. They do not just want Rizzio gone. They want to break Mary. They want to terrorize her into submission, or perhaps terrorize her so badly that she miscarries the heir, leaving the throne open for the taking. The atmosphere in Holyrood House grows heavy, suffocating. You can almost feel the static in the air, the pressure dropping before the storm. The servants move quietly, eyes darting to the corners. The tapestries seem to have ears. Mary feels it. a prickle on the back of her neck, a sudden chill when she enters a room and conversation stops abruptly, but she cannot see the knife until it is already at her throat. Saturday, the 9th of March. A supper party in the Queen's private apartments. It is a small, intimate room, barely 12 feet square, a sanctuary of warmth against the Scottish night. A fire burns in the grate. The table is set with silver and fine linen. Mary is there, heavy with child. Rizzio is there, wearing a hat of silk and fur, perhaps playing a soft melody. It is a domestic scene, fragile and peaceful. Then the sound of the secret stair. It is a private staircase that leads directly from Darnley's apartments below to the Queen's bedroom. Only the King has the key, the heavy thud of boots, the creak of a door opening where no door should open. Darnley enters first. He looks pale, his eyes glassy, perhaps fortified by wine. He sits beside Mary, puts an arm around her waist. It is a Judas kiss. For a moment she is confused. Is this reconciliation? Is this affection? But then the figure behind him steps out of the shadows. It is Lord Ruthven. He is a dying man, riddled with internal sickness, clad in full armor, a ghost in steel. His face is gaunt, pale as death itself. He looks like a revenant risen from the crypt to drag them all to hell. He draws his dagger. "Let it please your majesty," Ruthven croaks, his voice trembling with illness and malice, "that yonder man David come forth of your privy chamber, where he has been overlong." The room explodes into chaos. Mary stands, placing herself between the assassins and her friend. She commands them to leave on pain of treason, but the room is filling up now. More men crowd in from the secret stair, Morton, Lindsay, their followers. The tiny supper room is a crush of bodies, the smell of sweat and iron overpowering the scent of the meal. Rizzio knows he is dead. He scuttles behind the Queen, clutching the folds of her skirt, screaming in Italian, "Giustizia! Giustizia! Save my life, madame! Save my life!" But there is no justice here, only steel. Darnley grabs Mary, pinning her arms, holding her back. He forces her to watch. One of the conspirators presses a pistol against her pregnant belly. Another reaches over her shoulder and stabs Rizzio. The first blow, then another. They drag him screaming from the room, his fingers slipping from the Queen's dress, leaving streaks of terror in the fabric. They drag him into the outer chamber, and there the frenzy takes them. It is not an execution, it is a butchery. They stab him 56 times. 56. They do not stop until he is a ruin of a man. They leave the dagger of the King stuck in the body, a signature for all to see. Inside the room, Mary stands amidst the overturned furniture and the spilled wine. She's trembling, but she's not broken. She looks at her husband, the man who held her while his friends murdered her confidant, and her eyes are dry. The girl who loved poetry and lutes is gone. In her place is something colder, harder. "No more tears now," she whispers to the empty room. "I will think upon revenge." The shadows have done their work. They have turned a sanctuary into a slaughterhouse, but they have made a grave mistake. They thought they were killing a favorite. Instead, they have awakened a queen. The road from that blood-soaked supper room leads inexorably to the scaffold. Years bleed into decades, a slow, agonizing slide from the throne of Scotland to the prisons of England. There are battles lost, escapes made in the dead of night, and a desperate flight across the Solway Firth into the waiting arms of her cousin Elizabeth. But Elizabeth's arms are not a sanctuary. They are a vice. 19 years. Imagine that. 19 years of moving from castle to castle, each one damper, darker, and more hopeless than the last. Mary's hair turns grey. Her joints swell with rheumatism from the cold stone floors. She grows old in the shadows, writing letters that are intercepted, weaving plots that are unraveled before the ink is dry. She is a ghost haunting the edges of English history, a threat that refuses to die. Until the Babington plot. The trap is sprung. The evidence is forged or found. It hardly matters now. The warrant is signed. Elizabeth hesitates, her hand trembling over the parchment, but the ink dries all the same. The nightmare that began in a cradle in Linlithgow is about to end in a great hall in Fotheringhay. We are back in the room where we started. The fire is burning. The audience is waiting. The air is thick with the copper scent of imminent violence. Mary has disrobed. She stands in her crimson petticoat, a vivid splash of defiance. Her women, Jane Kennedy and Elizabeth Curl, blindfold her with a white cloth embroidered in gold. The world goes dark for Mary Stuart. She can no longer see the faces of the men who hate her. She can only hear the shuffle of boots, the crackle of the fire, the ragged breathing of the headsman. She kneels. She does not struggle. She feels for the block with her hands, the rough wood grazing her palms. She positions herself, reciting the psalm Into Domine Speravi, In Thee, O Lord, have I put my trust. She stretches out her neck, exposing the nape, that vulnerable bridge between the body and the mind. Into Thy hands, O Lord, I commend my spirit. The room holds its breath. The silence is absolute, a physical weight pressing down on the chest. Bull, the executioner, raises the axe. It is a heavy, clumsy tool, more suited for felling trees than severing royalty. He brings it down. Thud. A collective gasp sucks the air out of the room. It is not the clean, sharp sound of a neck being severed. It is the dull, wet impact of metal striking the back of the skull. The aim was off. The blade has bitten deep into the bone, but the neck is intact. Mary does not die instantly. The blow jars her brain, shattering the peace of her final prayer. A low, terrible sound escapes her throat. Not a scream, but a moan of confusion and agony. "Sweet Jesus," she whispers, the words bubbling through the shock. The executioner is panicked now. The professionalism of the ritual has shattered. This is butchery. He wrenches the axe free from the skull, a sound of suction and grinding bone that makes the witnesses turn pale. He raises the weapon again. He must finish it. He swings with desperate, frantic force. The second blow strikes the neck. It severs the spine, cutting through the spinal cord. The body convulses, then goes limp. The moan is silenced, but the horror is not over. The head is still attached by a stubborn flap of gristle and skin. The queen is dead, but she is not yet beheaded. Bull drops the axe. He cannot risk a third swing. He draws a knife from his belt. He straddles the body, his boots slipping in the spreading pool of blood. He saws through the remaining flesh, a grim manual labor that turns the stomachs of the hardened men watching. Finally, the head comes free. He stands up, panting, his hands slick with royal blood. He grabs the head by the hair to lift it high, to shout the traditional, "God save the Queen," and then the final grotesque indignity. As he lifts the head, the auburn curls come away in his hand. The head separates from the wig and falls to the wooden floor with a heavy, wet clunk. It rolls a few feet, coming to rest face up. The features are not those of the legendary beauty the poets wrote about. They are the features of an old woman, her hair cropped short and grey, her face frozen in a rictus of pain, lips still moving in a phantom prayer. The illusion is stripped away. There is no majesty here, just a broken body on a bloody stage. But the nightmare has one last beat. As the executioners begin to strip the body, claiming the clothes as their payment, they notice a movement beneath the crimson petticoat. A small, trembling shape huddled against the dead queen's legs. It is her dog, a small Skye terrier that had hidden itself in the folds of her dress. It is covered in her blood, shivering violently. It refuses to leave her side, growling and snapping at the men who just murdered its mistress. It is the only creature in that room that mourns her. It is the only pure thing in a room filled with sin. They have to drag the dog away to wash the blood from its fur. The execution is over. The Queen is dead, but the stain on the floorboards of Fotheringhay will never truly scrub out. The axe has fallen 3 times, but the echoes of those blows will ring for centuries. The body of Mary Stuart was not treated with the reverence of a sovereign. It was treated like evidence. For months she lay unburied, her corpse wrapped in wax cloth and sealed inside a heavy lead coffin left in a room at Fotheringhay while Elizabeth debated how to dispose of the woman she had just murdered. But even as the worms waited, a strange phenomenon began to take hold. The axe, intended to sever Mary's influence, had instead immortalized it. By striking her down, Elizabeth had not erased her rival, she had canonized her. There is a lingering mystery that haunts the stones of Fotheringhay, a question that historians and romantics have wrestled with for nearly 500 years. What if the casket letters, the damning documents that proved Mary plotted to kill her husband Darnley, were forgeries? What if the entire legal basis for her destruction was a fabrication by men who simply wanted a woman out of the way? If those letters were fakes, then the woman on the block was not a tyrant, but a martyr of the highest order. And consider the ultimate twist, the irony that surely made Elizabeth turn in her grave. Mary lost her head. She lost her kingdom. She lost her life. But in the long, ruthless game of dynasties, Mary won. Elizabeth died childless, the Virgin Queen, the last withered branch of the Tudor tree. When she took her final breath in 1603, the crown of England did not go to a favorite courtier or a distant English cousin. It went north. It went to James VI of Scotland, Mary's son. The boy she had been forced to abandon, the infant she last saw when he was 10 months old, rode south to sit on the throne of the woman who ordered his mother's execution. Every monarch who has sat on the British throne since, right down to the current king, traces their bloodline not to Elizabeth I, but to Mary, Queen of Scots. The executioner destroyed the vessel, but he could not stop the blood. There is a legend that says when the embalmers finally came to tend to Mary's body, they removed her heart and buried it secretly within the grounds of Fotheringhay Castle, separate from her body, which lies in Westminster Abbey. It is said that her heart never left the place of her trauma, beating like a phantom drum beneath the earth. It is a fitting ghost story, because in many ways, Mary never really died. She became the archetype of the tragic heroine, the Queen of Hearts, long before Diana Spencer held the title. She is the woman who loved too much, who felt too deeply, who was too beautiful and too charismatic for a grey world of political men. We look back at the 3 blows of the axe and we wince, not just at the physical pain, but at the sheer waste of it. We wonder what Scotland might have been if she had been allowed to rule. We wonder what Europe might have looked like if she and Elizabeth had met, not as rivals in letters, but as sisters in a room, without the poison of advisors between them. But history does not deal in what-ifs. It deals in cold, hard iron. Mary's legacy is not found in laws or battles won. It is found in the enduring power of her story. She reminds us that passion is dangerous. She teaches us that in the Game of Thrones, there is no mercy for the vulnerable. She shows us that a queen can be stripped of her velvet, her crown, and even her wig, but she cannot be stripped of her dignity if she refuses to surrender it. The executioner, Bull, died shortly after the execution, consumed by guilt or madness, depending on which chronicle you believe. The witnesses carried the smell of that blood in their nostrils for the rest of their lives, and we, centuries later, are still talking about the woman in the crimson petticoat. So as the candles burn low and the shadows of Fotheringhay recede, we are left with one final question to weigh in the scales of history. Was she a plotting adulteress who washed her hands in her husband's blood, or was she a saintly victim surrounded by wolves? Do you think they were a victim or a villain? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to see how the other side of this deadly coin lived, if you want to understand the woman who signed the warrant, Click the video on your screen right now. The story continues there.